In this video, we're going to explore how to identify a high-quality vitamin or multivitamin. How's it going, guys? This is Chris back with another episode of TGIF, Talking Gut Immuno Fridays, where we talk about gut health, sinus health, and improving your immune function through lifestyle choices. If that sounds like something that's interesting to you, be sure to subscribe and hit the little bell so you never miss another video again. I've got my notepad here again. I think that's working well with these videos, so I'm going to go ahead. It's early in the morning, so forgive me if I seem a little groggy. It's how much I love you guys. I'm trying to record this to make sure we keep schedule here. So, number one, when we're thinking about choosing a high-quality vitamin, we want to look at the ingredients. If you take a quick look at the ingredients label, that can help us determine right off the bat whether or not it's a high-quality multivitamin or vitamin. Some of the things to look for are, for instance, vitamin D. There are different types of vitamin D. There's vitamin D2 and there's vitamin D3. For humans, we do want the D3 form. So if you're seeing the D2 form, that is typically something that plants would be provided by plants and is sometimes seen as Ergocalciferol. D3 is usually represented as cholecalciferol. So if you see the longer version of that, the Ergocalciferol, or it'll say D2, then you know that they kind of cheaped out on some of the ingredients. So then your body has to go through the process of converting the D2 to the D3, and then it's just a wasted process and you're not going to be absorbing nearly as much as the D3. Another one to look for is B12. And sometimes when you look at the B12 on a multivitamin, you'll see two different types, maybe three different types, but the two most common you're going to see are a Cyanocobalamin or a Methylcobalamin. So a Cyanocobalamin is processed through a cheap cyanobacteria. And you know you're dealing with a cheap product here that's not going to be absorbed as well versus a methylcobalamin product. So look for the methylcobalamin products. Vitamin E, there should be a mix of 4 tocopherols and 4 tocotrienols. So if the vitamin E says that it's a mix of 8 different components, particularly the tocopherols and the tocotrienols, then you know you're dealing with a more high quality product. And some of the things that you can look at too are GMP, good manufacturing practices. While that does not necessarily guarantee it's a great product and they don't cut some corners, that's the thing you deal with the supplement industry, is trying to make sure that there's some good quality control, which often there's not, because there's not a lot of regulation. So you really get hit or miss on a lot of these products. But a GMP, a good manufacturing practices, shows that they're at least following some level of quality guidelines that have been established. So that's something to look for. Organic products sometimes may have higher quality control as well. I mean, you're not being exposed to as many pesticides in the final product, which I think could be a good thing, but I don't think is always necessary. So some things are starting to break down into, they're trying to extract nutrients. I would always say, guys, and I'm sure you can agree with me, that nutrients coming from food is always better than something coming from a synthetic product. So if you can find vitamins or multivitamins, you know, I remember Innate Response was starting to do this. They developed something called Food State, where they were trying to directly get these from food. We know that extracting things in the past has been a disaster, like vitamin A. That's been a real issue in the past when we're trying to isolate some of these vitamins, and so then it ends up being something that's not the complete product that we need in order to digest or absorb these nutrients. So trying to get things as natural in a balanced food diet is the best route possible. I do think that synthetic isolation can sometimes be a problem. One thing to note, especially if you are looking at something like fish oil, is to call the company and talk to them. You want to make sure you're getting things from a good source. So if you're looking at fish oil, it's incredibly important that you are finding where the source is from. You know, are they in an area where there's known to be a lot of PCBs or it's not as clean of an area in the seas? Or are they in a more pristine, protected area? That's a question to ask. Do they do independent testing? Is it third-party tested for things like mercury? And now, after post-Fukushima, are they testing for the different types of radiation? I know that's not something you had to think about before, but it is now. There are some things that you want to think about in terms of dosing. So when you're looking at the dosing of multivitamins, there have been studies that have shown mega doses can actually cause more harm than good. A perfect example is vitamin D, where vitamin D is supposed to help with the strength of bones and reduce the risk of falls. There have been cases and studies now that have shown that mega doses of vitamin D, so sometimes when people are getting like 50,000 to 100,000 IUs in the form of an injection, these mega doses actually increased their risk of falling or caused them not to absorb as much as smaller doses along the way. So I think it's critical to allow your body not to supersaturate these things and to take them at an appropriate dose, maybe slightly above the recommended daily allowance, and that just depends on your diet. So if you're somebody that brings me my next point is, if you're somebody that's eating a whole foods based diet, it's very unlikely that you're going to need much beyond the 100% RDA. But again, I'm not a physician. I want you to always check with somebody or a nutritionist on your individual case. There are some contraindications to taking multivitamins, particularly, you need to make sure you have the right multivitamin for pregnancy. If you are on certain medications, they can interfere with multivitamins. And then also diabetes can be something that you have to make sure you have the right mix there. So that's something that I think about in terms of, should we even be taking them at all? It depends on your individual case. I know there have been studies out there that have looked at multivitamins and their overall effect on mortality, or does it make any difference in the long term on your overall health or how long you live? And the results are pretty mixed on those. The ones that have been negative, you have to look at the funding. You have to look at who's funding these type of studies, because oftentimes if you follow the money, you'll find that, well, the results may have been a little skewed on that. So I think the studies are still out on these kind of things, but it's important to continue to research, and that's something that you have to do on a personal level. I hope this was helpful, guys. I'm happy to answer any questions in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your experiences. What multivitamin or vitamins do you take? Why do you take them? Did you research them? What did you find out? I'd love to hear either good or bad, even companies to stay away from. What have your experiences been with vitamins and multivitamins? This has been another episode of TGIF. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe, like, and hit the little bell so you never miss another video again. If you find this helpful and you think someone else would benefit, be sure to share that and pass it along to a friend. I try to post every Friday at 5 p.m., so be sure to check back every Friday. I look forward to seeing you guys next Friday.